At Metro, the best deal in wireless is on. Switch to Metro and get 1 full Amazon Prime membership included every month. Plus, get 2 free phones from top brands like Samsung and LG with huge HD screens. All with 2 lines for just $90. That's the best deal in wireless, only at Metro. Plus sales tax and activation fee. Requires port in of eligible number not currently active on T-Mobile network or active on Metro in past 90 days. Limit 4 per account or household. Offer subject to change. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Amazon Prime has a $12.99 per month value. Restrictions apply. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Finding the right pros for home projects can be tough and spark a lot of questions like, how do I find a pro who can help? Will they do a good job? Will I get a fair price? That's where HomeAdvisor can help. From leaky faucets to major remodels, HomeAdvisor connects you to the right pro for the job in seconds and even helps you get a fair price. Read reviews, check project cost guides, and book appointments. Go to HomeAdvisor.com or download the free HomeAdvisor app to start your next project.
And now, a thought from Geico Motorcycle.
It took 15 minutes to take a spirit animal quiz online.
Please be the cheetah. Please be the cheetah.
And learn your animal isn't the cheetah, but the far less appealing blobfish.
Oh, come on.
To add insult to injury, you could have used those 15 blobfish minutes to switch your motorcycle insurance to Geico.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance.
Updates on some of the old cases, info about Charles Manson. FYI, he's dead. Then you can follow us on social media.
Update, he's still dead.
He's still, nothing's changed, still dead, just in case you were wondering. And he gave all of his estate to someone who was his pen pal.
That's
Sweet.
pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't expect that.
So if you want all that kind of weird info and tidbits, then follow us over there. Those links will be in the show notes. We also have in the show notes a link to our Patreon and our Threadless. So on Patreon, we will have bonus episodes and some merch for anybody that supports us on Patreon. This week, we have new supporters on Patreon. We wanted to say thank you to Leah, Faith, Mead Green, Courtney Jill, and Robert.
That's tough for me to
know.
Leah.
Usually you're so good at
Faith,
this. Mm-hmm.
Me, Jeed.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus?
Courtney? And Robert.
And Robert. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I don't know about that name, Mead Green. It was
Mead
like
Green.
Mead HBH Green. So there's something going on there.
GHB.
And there's always a Leah. Always.
Yep.
Everybody that's a Leah has to be into true crime. It's like a rule.
Yep.
I
don't know any real life Leahs.
Yeah. I do, and they're all crazy. So
okay.
Let's not piss off all our Leah listeners.
You're doing great.
I mean, you're totally sane, Leah. Every Leah out there, really stable,
Super
emotionally,
hot,
super
too.
hot,
Yeah.
wonderful,
Intelligent.
We love the Leahs. So along with our Patreon information, you will also find a link to our Threadless. So we've got a bunch of merch like t-shirts and sweaters and all sorts of stuff. I just updated the page this weekend. So there's 2 more designs and it'll show you a bunch of different options. So like we said before, t-shirts, phone cases, sweaters, housewares, a bunch of weird shit, mugs and water bottles. If you want our face on it, or some murder weapons, or our logo, we got you.
Yeah. Is it weird? Okay, so I'm not going to wear all the stuff, even though I want to all the time. But if I just infiltrate everyone's houses, just everything, that's all they get for Christmas. Like, hey, I got you a cup with my face on it.
I mean, a throw pillow is an option, so you could just like leave little scavenger hunt kind of things, like a little throw pillow, or just change their shower curtain.
Yeah, without them
shower
knowing.
Curtains available.
I need like magnets for my parents. I just want to give people gifts and be like, hey, thanks for not supporting me. I'm going to do it myself. Here you go. Thanks, family.
Thanks for not listening to my podcast.
Stocking stuffers. They would hate it anyways, honestly.
I mean, we highly suggest that all of our listeners do that, honestly. I think that's great. Here's something from a podcast you don't listen to. Especially if you're like, a relative that just isn't into true crime.
You know, my dad the other day was like, I said something about the podcast. He's like, yeah, people listen to that, huh? Because it's on Facebook.
That is so sweet of him.
Like, no way. Yeah, kind of, Dad.
What a supportive dad.
Yeah.
My mom told me the other day that she listened to the show because she couldn't fall asleep. And I was like, I don't even know how to feel about that. Either you're super creepy or I'm super boring. This is not good.
I'm going to go with creepy because there's no boring. Maybe it is. I don't know.
So if you want merch,
yeah,
the holidays are coming up. You want to get them for everybody on your Christmas list, then do it. Threadless. If you're interested in merch, it's murderdictionary.threadless.com. And the link is in our show notes. It's all over our social media. And I'll try and post a picture of the homepage so you guys can see some of the options that I put up there. Cool?
Cool.
And then I think lastly, we just want to point out that there's a couple other things in the show notes that if you want to skip parts of the story that are kind of gruesome, we have some timestamps for you. So if there's anything that's triggering or violent or pretty horrific, we understand some people don't want to hear that. So we put timestamps in the show notes. Also, we have links to resources for domestic violence, for substance abuse, for some mental health things like suicide awareness, anti-bullying, a bunch of stuff like that, because we recognize that those resources are extremely important to a lot of the people in the stories. And we always want to make sure that people have access to that and that it's easy to get to.
Like every person in every story.
Like us especially. Like the two people on the mics right now. Yeah, it's just, these stories, once you get into them, it's just like, oh, shit. You need an AA meeting. You need a therapist. This person needs a woman's shelter. Like
eyebrow threading.
I mean, really. Yeah. Microblading as fuck for those Mulhall sisters. Yeah. So we just want to make sure that we put those links so that it's easily available to anybody that's listening. And maybe it strikes a chord with you and there's links there.
Helps a click away.
It's a click away, Kels.
Mm-hmm. A clit away.
Truer words have never been spoken. Smoking words.
I heard a scary story on the way over here, timestamp. There's a shortage of Christmas trees. While I was listening to Christmas music on the way over here.
That's so depressing.
It was like, because they grow every 10 years.
I have a number for a suicide hotline for
Seriously. You. Give me that fucking hotline number.
Yeah, just the end is near. That's what's going on. The end is extremely fucking nigh.
Yeah.
That's what no Christmas trees means. So
terrifying.
It's 90 degrees in California right now. And the holidays are here.
Yep.
So let's just distract ourselves from that by talking about some true crime. You down?
I'm down.
Yeah, let's not think about the trees.
Thank God we use palm trees instead.
It's a LA Christmas for you. So we are on Twins Part 4, actually, because we threw in a little bonus like Turkey Day Twins thing. So it wasn't like, it was still a twins kind of thing because of twins being in the story, but we're going to do a Part 4 anyway. So tonight we're going to talk about the Bondurant Twins.
It's an ice cream? What is that?
It does sound like a dessert or something.
What
sounds like Bananas Foster. Like, this is a Bondurant.
Yeah, fancy.
Like, don't try and make it fancy. We know it's just like ice cream with a cookie dumped on top.
Yeah. No, it's a Bondurant.
Yeah, that's a Bondurant twin.
Bondurant. Okay. Sounds delicious.
It is. It is. You're going to hear all about it. It's nasty and delicious. You're going to want it all over. So, twins, Hugh Pete, in quotes, Bondurant Jr., and Kenneth Patterson, a.k.a. Pat Bondurant, were born April 4th in 1955 in Alabama.
Pete and Pat?
Pete and Pat.
Pete and Pat.
Which, again, I feel like this happens so often. Never have a child that you name one thing and call something completely different. It doesn't make any sense.
Hugh Pete?
Yeah. Hugh Pete? Who the fuck does that? And every time they're the murderers.
Yeah, of course.
Just don't do it. And then also, I don't know if you noticed, but Pete is a junior.
Oh.
So how do you have twin sons and pick one at birth? Like, you see it coming down the fucking vagina hallway and you're like, that's my favorite. That's the one. That's the junior.
He probably came out first, right? He's the actual. I mean, technically, he is the junior.
Yeah, well, maybe. But it just seems weird. Like, what a head trip if you were the person that wasn't a junior.
Yeah.
I think that just sets you up for some really bad rivalry.
Yeah, you just already, you're like, well, they named me the junior, so technically I'm better.
I fucking rule.
Yeah.
You just walk around high-fiving yourself all day, you know?
Pat, you're named after mom. Pat, Susan, Bondurant.
Yeah, no wonder he was fucked up, you know? That's all I'm saying. You can't expect your kids to be normal if you're going to do that to them. Give them, like, weird names and choose a junior. No. It's just mean. So their father, Pete Sr., was a military contractor, of course. Military dads are always good. And their mother, Polly, was retired from Redstone Arsenal, which was an army post. But I'm not exactly sure what she did at the army post.
Obviously, she just squeezed lemonade and sold all. What else do women do?
Just brought sandwiches and beer. That's
foot rubs all day.
When they were young, the Bondurant twins were overweight farm boys. And by some accounts, they were described as morbidly obese.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not funny. It's just
no, but I like bringing it up because it's always the women whose bodies are described. Yeah. I'm just happy someone's talking about a dude right now.
Yeah. How do you get fat on a farm though? Like, don't you have to walk everywhere?
I feel like it's pretty easy because you just have. I mean, you have butter and milk,
fresh meat,
and dead animals.
That's
all
eating
the
clean.
Time.
Okay, that's clean living.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't you have chores? Like your chores are real chores? Like,
yeah, maybe.
Shoe the cows.
You would be like scooping shit all the time and digging ditches for no reason.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Fat farm boys sounds weird.
It does. It does. They usually wore flannel shirts and overalls and dressed kind of backwoodsy, basically, from a very young age. So they just look like old farm boys, like from birth, pretty much. So they were identical. And the only way that people could tell them apart was because Pat wore glasses. He was the hipster twin. They both struggled with their weight from an early age and were pretty insecure about it. And into adulthood, they would reach up to 350 pounds. Again, I'm not trying to fat shame. I'm just excited someone's talking about a man's body. It's always in these true crime stories, they're talking about women. So my opinion is it is a part of the story, just to the extent that their size would be something that they would use against other people.
Yeah.
And I think it is important to bring up. Most of the time I see in my research that the people covering the crime will talk about someone's body and I just don't even talk about it. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Fuck that. But with these twins, it was a very big deal to them to be the biggest. Yes. And that was like part of their way to intimidate people and instill fear in people and get power. So I think that it's important to kind of cover what they look like, what they saw themselves as, and how it kind of impacted their standing in the community pretty much.
I did the same thing in middle school.
Yeah.
I did. I just was the biggest, and then I was like, oh, this is working for me. People are scared of me.
Really?
Swear to God.
I can't imagine anybody being scared of you. I mean, I've seen you be scary, but I can't imagine anybody walking up and be like, that Kelly lady is pretty scary.
Well, I was like the tallest even though I was just like the same height since then. So I was just bigger. And then, and then I'd be like, that's not funny. And then I just like hit push a girl and she'd go like 5 feet and everyone would be like, whoa.
You just swat little girls away like a fly?
They were so little and they were really bitchy. Come on.
Yeah, little girls are a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I wish I would have swatted more girls.
Who put the guys in plaid though? You'd think they'd stay away from stripes.
Yeah, or all sorts of patterns.
Polka
just
dots.
Wear black all the time.
Yeah, solid black farm
Get into
boys.
metal. You'll be good. They began getting bullied in school for their weight. And it was a source of a lot of issues in their childhood. They, of course, got attacked for it. They got teased for it. And they hadn't really learned yet how to use it against people like Kelly did. However, as they did become older, they grew taller and realized that they could use their size against people, that was something that made them powerful. So they soon went from being picked on to intimidating their classmates and bullying anybody that was smaller than them. It wasn't like they, a lot of bullies will latch on to one or two people or whatever. From all accounts, it seemed like the Bondurant twins just went after fucking everybody. They were just set to rule the school with fear and intimidation.
But Doyle rules.
So they were intimidating enough individually. You could imagine this kind of person. Like, I think we all know someone similar to this or whatnot that was a bully that, kind of asserted their power in a schoolyard, which is a weird thing to do so young. But especially since there was two of them, most of us see bullies alone, but this was even worse because they were twins and because they always had a sidekick to get in trouble with, and it was never one-on-one. It was always two much bigger kids against one smaller kid. So everybody was fucking terrified of them. Pete was the dominant twin. Of course, there's always one. And he was the one that had a temper and a very short fuse, and he was prone to just get angry out of nowhere. In addition to learning how to use their size against other kids, they also learned that having a steady flow of drugs would make them really cool and popular with girls.
Totally. Agreed.
So around the same time that they started kind of bullying other kids, they also began getting somewhat popular, which was weird. They became known for their partying, getting into trouble. They were mischievous kind of teenagers, and they were always able to supply their friends with drugs. So there were always people around. The brothers were inseparable for the first 18 years of their life. Wherever you saw one, there was always the other one. But they were separated for the first time after high school. Once they both graduated, Pete moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, and people say that he seemed really lost without his twin. He just had no identity without his other half. So Pete, because he was just really kind of lost without Pat, he went on this really bad downward spiral. He was partying all the time, and everything he was doing back home just got kind of darker.
But he was like at the peak of his coolness.
Right? He just leaned up against walls a lot and talked about his feelings.
Jukeboxes just turned on anywhere he walked.
So he was partying pretty hard in Ohio, and he was binge drinking, and it really got him into a lot of trouble. In 1975, Pete got into a fight with some friends, and he pulled a knife during the altercation. He proceeded to stab both people, and one of his friends ended up dying with over 40 stab wounds.
What the fuck could you have been arguing over?
Right? What is that big of a deal? I just don't understand.
I don't want to wear regular pants. I like my overalls.
Right?
Don't make fun of my overalls.
Stop trying to change me. If you're my friend, accept me as how I am, bro.
I said I like Prince.
So does everybody.
I meant Prince, like... with a T, like Plaid Prince.
Now I know what you're saying, but this is a classic example of how I'm always thinking about Prince 100% of the time. There is 0% of the time that I'm not thinking about Prince.
Holy shit. You were so quick.
My brain was just like, someone said Prince.
That was instantly. It's like your call to your people.
It is.
Oh my God. That was so good. Yes, and Prince.
Both Prince and Prince, I feel like, I don't know, this story is kind of one of those things that like parents warn people about, like, oh, you're gonna go out partying, you're gonna get in trouble, and this is what they picture as the worst case scenario. And I don't know, parents always have that thing of like, well, I trust you, but I don't trust X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Like, I trust you to be out late, but I don't trust other drivers that may be drunk. I don't trust that your friends will be responsible, whatever. And this is kind of one of those things, like, these young people that were presumably in their 20s, just like him, went out, they were drinking, and just shit went bad,
Yeah.
you know? And they were just with the wrong person that was too violent and too fucked up, you know? It's really sad. And of course, you know, because it was just kind of a bar fight and he was drunk, it really didn't result in much. Like, he was convicted of manslaughter and he was sent to jail
40 times and
Yes.
you get manslaughter?
Yes, right?
Wait, is that because it's not premeditated?
Yeah.
Oh,
it was
shit.
just kind of like, oh, he was drunk and he
Oh.
went off the handle. And that's crazy to me. Yeah, I don't get it.
Shit.
So, yeah, he was sentenced, I think it was something like 10 years. For some reason, I just don't have it in my notes, which rarely happens. But yeah, he just got a really short sentence. So he really only went away. I think he served like 9 of the 10 years, if I remember correctly. And I think that's fucking insane.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you said, 40 stab wounds. It's just unreal. That's overkill.
I just would hope you would have to. They would follow him up with, you know, the psychiatric. If you do some shit like that, it's just required. You need a psychiatric
Yes.
evaluation, something. Because if you stab somebody 40 times, there's got to be. You're not just mad about, you know,
Right.
him not liking Prince.
Yeah, it's just not drinking. It's not whatever. It's
No.
not Prince. It's got to be something underlying that's going to keep coming up unless you address it.
But that might pop up in like 10 years when he gets out.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's fucked up. So while Pete was on a downward spiral, Pat was actually doing the opposite. His life was really going in the right direction. Pat got a job at a local rubber plant. He was rubber. And he was really getting more responsible. He was trying to kind of grow up and, you know, become an adult. In 1980, Pat was accidentally rear-ended by a woman named Denise, and they exchanged info and began dating after they got in a car accident. So Denise married Pat in 1983, but their relationship was tumultuous from the beginning, and they separated for the first time like only a few months after they got married.
I would still file that claim right after. Like,
Right?
what's the statute of limitations? Fuck you, I'm still filing that claim.
Right?
I'll get my
Better
money.
fix my bumper.
Yeah.
So they reconciled a short time after, though, and they would continue this pattern for a few years. They just kept breaking up. They'd get into fights, and then they'd reconcile. It would be a short time, and they'd get back together. Their relationship became more tumultuous when Pat's twin, Pete, was paroled and returned home. Much to Denise's displeasure, Pete decided to move in with them. She was pissed.
I thought she was going to go for like the bad boy version, like dump Pat for Pete.
It would be like Shameless or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a brother upgrade. I don't know. I mean, she knew that Pete was bad news.
Yeah.
You know? And I think she knew that her husband was kind of fucked up enough on his own. And she had a feeling that it would be only worse if he came home. And I mean, she was right. You know, she's right to think so. He's the one that's fucking in jail for manslaughter. That's scary. So he came back home and he moved in with them. And they lived in Elkton, Tennessee, just across the border from Alabama, their hometown. Before long, the twins kind of reverted back to their old patterns, and the dynamic just kind of became ingrained again. They just started getting into trouble and partying a lot, and that just was their MO.
Pushing kids into lockers.
Yes.
They didn't even go to the high school.
Just going back to the schools. They're in their 30s and they're like just outside the junior high with leather jackets, super tight. So their house once again became like party central, and the twins began using drugs again to become more popular and get friends. They always had a steady supply of Valium, Dilaudid, cocaine, and alcohol.
It's a weird mix.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good mix.
Yeah, I mean, he's got like a combination of everything.
I'm just saying, yes, please, yes, please.
Pain
yes,
pills,
please.
anti-anxiety.
I'll pass on the alcohol, but...
Yeah, exactly. Just drop the alcohol out of there.
So even though they were in their fucking 30s, they're sitting there supplying drugs to much younger kids, like late teens, early 20s. And they hung out with a crowd of just like partying young people. they always had a lot of people around partying with them. Although they seemingly had a lot of friends, the twins also had a reputation for having short tempers and people knew not to fuck with them. So they were kind of their friends, they were kind of scared of them, they were kind of using them for drugs, but somehow they seemed like they were popular.
They're called dealers.
Yeah, right? It's just like, I don't know. It seems like some people's account is that people like them, but I think that was mostly motivated by fear and drugs.
Yeah.
You know?
I love my dealer for the first 20 minutes. Then I really got to go.
Then it's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to talk at all.
Like, I'm not even talking. You're just doing all the talking. Like,
and I smoked you out.
yeah.
So because many of the people in their social circle were really young, they started to develop like a cult kind of following, and people just saw them as kind of these leaders. And it was just because of the fear, really. They seemed kind of like drug kingpins, and that's what a lot of people in their circle made them out to be. But I think it was more just inside their inner circle. Anybody that wasn't in the inner circle didn't see it that way. They saw it for what it fucking was. But even though they weren't all that powerful in reality, people did fear them, so the twins kind of believed the hype about themselves. They started to get that sort of, what is it, like Tony Montana kind of complex, just feeling like they're fucking invincible. So in May 1986, a man named Ken Duggar was partying at the Bondurant's house when his car broke down. So Ken left his car there, and he came back the next day. He got a ride from his sister to the farmhouse to retrieve his car. So Pete was attracted to the sister. 24-year-old Gwen Duggar, she was like this bubbly, really young, petite, blonde girl. And Pete was all over her as soon as she arrived. He was trying to get her to party and stay with them and the whole thing.
You like cocaine?
Right? Like, how do you feel about Dilaudid? How about a guy that churns a lot of butter?
How do you feel about plaid?
I have really, really powerful forearms and I like Prince.
I'll wear my brother's glasses if you want smart guys. So, just do this coke.
I could pretend to read. I've got some great Dr. Seuss novels. So the guys started working on fixing the car, and Pete continued to try and convince Gwen to stay and hang out and just like party with us, you know?
You want to suck my dick?
Right,
You
like
wanna,
creepy.
You want to suck my dick?
By all accounts, super creepy.
Do you want your car fixed? Want to suck my dick?
Exactly. So eventually, whatever gross charm that he had, it worked on Gwen, and she decided to stay.
What?
Yeah. So her brother took off in his car, and they just kind of started drinking and getting high together. Over the next few hours, Pete kept giving Gwen a ton of drugs until she was losing consciousness.
What?
Yes.
Do the coke instead.
I know.
Jesus.
Stay alert, woman. I know. Oh, it's just so sad. So Pete brought her into the bathroom and he sexually assaulted her. Soon after, Pat brought her out of the bathroom and sexually assaulted her as well. Pat's wife, Denise, was home at the time, and she caught the twins while they were with Gwen. So Denise was distraught and inconsolable, completely freaked out, and attempted to wake Gwen up. So she's standing over her, trying to get her to come to, and she started telling Gwen to get up and leave. And she starts trying to pick her up and help her towards the door. And while she was trying to help Gwen, Pat walked up and pushed Gwen back down and began hitting her with an axe handle.
No. Hitting Gwen?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And Denise was horrified. Like, all she could do is sit there and watch while Pat kept beating Gwen up. And she really couldn't do anything. And if she stepped in, of course, she knew that she would get the axe as well. So while Pete bludgeoned Gwen viciously, Denise was just sitting there horrified, trying to get away. Gwen was gravely injured after he was hitting her, but she was still alive. And Pete walked up and said he was going to put Gwen out of her misery.
No.
So he pulled out a pistol and he shot her twice.
He could have just done that to start off with. Fucking assholes.
Yeah. It's just so cruel and vicious.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah. It's just torture. So Denise, of course, was terrified. She just saw, the brutal beating and murder of a woman. And she felt like her husband had turned into the same monster that she knew Pete was. And she watched while the twins basically wrapped up Gwen's body like it was nothing, and they started yelling at Gwen and telling her that she had to clean up the crime scene. And she felt like she really couldn't say no.
You said Gwen. Wait, you mean what's the wife's name?
Denise.
Denise. Okay, Denise has to clean up the...
Yeah.
Okay.
So the twins wrapped her up and they're telling Denise that you have to clean this up.
Okay.
And while Denise was cleaning, the twins took Gwen's body to the edge of Elk River. They put Gwen's body in a 55-gallon drum and they burned it until only bits of bone and ash were left.
Also, her brother knows she was just there.
I know. I don't understand.
Yeah, they don't give a fuck.
No, not at all. They really have this complex that they're invincible. So after they burned her body, which apparently took a couple days, actually.
A couple days?
Yes.
Oh, no.
They threw the remaining parts of Gwen into the river. They then took her belongings and a mattress outside, and they burned those as well. So Gwen Duggar's family was extremely concerned right away that she didn't come home. This wasn't a case where a few days passed or a week or anything and nobody knew. This was like immediately that night, they figured, where is Gwen? Something must be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So Gwen had a baby boy at the time. And by all accounts, she was a really great mother. So right away, people knew it was unlike her to not come home.
Mm-hmm.
That was not something that was normal for her by any stretch of the imagination. And so they called in right away that she was missing. So the Duggar family put up flyers. They were telling everybody in the community. They were asking people to keep an eye out. And everybody was trying to think if they knew any information. They had a reward, the whole thing. But nobody knew where she had went.
How about the brother?
Right. That was the only thing, was that's the last time she was seen. Right. They said she left the house fine, and that was it. And there was no physical evidence. So the case went cold, basically. So for the next 4 years, Gwen was considered missing. Denise continued to live in the house with them and was terrified. And she knew that if she said anything or stood up for herself, she would be next. She saw what they were capable of. So she feared if she made any wrong move or talked to the wrong people, she kind of became paranoid that they thought that she was going to tell, And of course, since their relationship was kind of tumultuous, it really added to the trouble that they had. So 3 months after the murder, they kept getting in worse and worse fights until they got into another huge one that became really physical. Denise was pregnant at the time, and Pat could not care at all. He just threw her on the floor. He was hitting her and he was choking her, and he held a gun to her head. He just kind of kept going. And I have no idea what would have happened to Denise if her sister hadn't showed up and started trying to talk some sense into Pat. And I think knowing that there was a witness there kind of discouraged him from going further. Denise told him he needed to stop. She told him that she was just going to take her sister and that's it. Like, they were going to leave. And that's what they did. Mm-hmm. So she left that night and they didn't get back together after that.
Thank goodness.
I know.
Jesus. Some girls wouldn't be mad. They would just think, they're like, I don't give a fuck if you killed a girl. You cheated on me. that slide. But you fucked her.
I know, right? That's the real problem. Going to find her on Instagram.
Yeah.
She ain't even cute, though. Yeah, I think that, this was kind of course, the murder was the beginning of the end for them. And since she knew she could live in fear for only a certain amount of time, and thank goodness her sister showed up and said, that's enough. This needs to stop. I'm just taking her, especially because she was pregnant.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So Denise went and left with her sister, and they went to live in Athens, Alabama.
Good for you, Denise.
I know.
God, I'm so happy.
Getting out. I know. I was very scared for her. Like, we know where that goes.
Yeah.
We know the pattern and where it ends up.
You said pregnant. I was like, this is going to be
No,
bad.
I know. It's terrifying. So at the time, Denise and Pat also had a child together already named Matthew. And Matthew was 3 years old and had cerebral palsy. Matthew received disability checks from Social Security, and they were sent to the farmhouse where the murder occurred. After separating, Denise would go visit Pat each month to kind of pick up the check, and actually Pat would cash it for her. So she would constantly return to get money, and especially because Matthew was sick, she relied on him for support.
Change of address.
Right.
What the fuck is going on?
Yeah. Well, Denise was a stay-at-home mom. She took care of Matthew, and she really relied on Pat, and he would not only give her the disability money, but he would also provide for Matthew,
Yeah, but she's not staying at that home, meaning she's home to pick up that check.
I know.
I don't know why. I'm just so upset.
There's a check cashing place. There's all sorts of things that you could do, like have your sister cash it for you. You need to change your address and not be involved with this guy.
I'm just surprised she could even pick up those checks. Like, couldn't you explain that to somebody? Like, last time I was there, I was pregnant. I was getting beaten up.
Yeah. I can't imagine the drive every month going and driving to the place where you saw all these horrific things take place.
What if he's like, no, actually, I'll keep the checks and just have them keep coming in, but I'll
right. But you never know.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. I know. Just putting myself in her shoes, it just makes me so, so, so sad.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the torment she was going through. In September 1986, Denise asked him for more money so that she and Matthew could move. Pat said that he couldn't help because his wallet had been stolen the night before. He was supposedly out drinking and his wallet disappeared, and he said, I can't give you any more money, and I don't have the check this month because that was stolen too. So apparently he had like $300 in his wallet plus the check, and it was gone. He suspected that his drinking buddy had taken the wallet. Pat said that after work that day, he went out with his friend Ronnie Gaines, aka Hippie, who worked with him at the rubber company. And Pat believed that Hippie had basically gotten him drunk with this plan that I'm going to just wait till he's blacked out or wasted and take all of his money. So since his friends knew that monthly he had this check and it was payday and all this stuff, he thought someone close to him, specifically Hippie, had known that that was the right time to catch him while he had the most money in his wallet. Later, an acquaintance named Wade Bass would actually come forward and say that he had taken the wallet that night. He said that he found it lying on the floor of the tavern where they were drinking that night, but it didn't matter to Pat. He didn't know that information. He just was convinced that Hippie had taken it. So weeks went by, and Pat became so convinced and obsessed with getting back at Hippie, he just became angrier and angrier as time went on. He was really vocal with everybody around about Hippie being the person that took the wallet. He said that Hippie had stolen from him. He made kind of veiled threats, and he said, whoever steals from my son and myself, I'm going to come after him, and this person's going to regret it, and stupid shit like that to all of their friends and coworkers. So finally, After weeks went by and he was pretty worked up, on October 17th, 1986, he went over to Hippie's house and said he wanted to play cards.
And Hippie said, no, we got to talk this out, bro.
Yeah.
And then we can play cards.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I don't know. It doesn't make sense that this person that's threatening you would be allowed to just hang out and play cards with you.
Maybe he's a vampire and then he's like, invite me into your house to play cards. Sure. Would you like to come in to play cards?
Maybe that was it.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that possibly that story was made up, because it just doesn't make sense that this person that's being threatened is going to say, hey, let's hang out,
Wouldn't you just steal his drugs? Why would you steal his wallet? I can get $300 worth of cocaine, Dilaudid, and
I know, right?
whatever other stuff.
Well, the person that actually did it, I mean, yeah, I think that the thought process that Pat had was kind of flawed. Like anybody could have ripped him off at any time. Why would this be the time and this be the person? He just kind of came up with the story in his head, when in reality, the person that actually stole it was just kind of had the opportunity. It fell out of Pat's pocket because he was too fucking wasted.
Yeah,
someone sees a wallet on the floor and does the wrong thing and doesn't return it, but it wasn't like someone went out of their way to victimize him the way that he thought it happened.
Yeah, it wasn't a spiteful plan.
Yeah. So. It was just this opportunity of just like, here's money, I'm taking the money. Whatever. But he just flew off the handle about it. Mm-hmm. He let it, again, just kind of let it fester in his head to where it became this unbearable thing that he had to retaliate. So he went over to, quote, play cards with Hippie, because that's what you do with people that you threaten. And he says that while they were playing cards, he caught Hippie cheating. And they got in a fight. So, of course, it's way more, you're like smirking at me. It's way more likely that he had planned this out ahead of time. It's way more likely that he had went up to Hippie and been like, hey, I'm coming to your house, or just showed up out of nowhere, So he was just looking for excuse to get back at him. Mm-hmm. So when their fight broke out, however it started, Pat grabbed a rocking chair from the living room and used it as a weapon. So he lifted the rocking chair up, of course, because he's this big guy, and he started hitting him with it. He was hitting him so hard with the chair that it started to break into pieces. So, of course, the back will break off, an arm will break off, and it just kept going. And eventually he was hitting him for so long that all that was left of the chair was one little rod.
No.
He beat Hippie until he had succumbed to his injuries, and then he kept going for another half hour. He just kept hitting. By the end of it, there was just this leg left and a bunch of little pieces scattered. Afterwards, he picked up Hippie's body and dragged it to the bathroom and put it in the bathtub. He then tried to call his brother Pete and get him to come over and help out.
Pete, come play some cards.
Right?
Really need you to come play some cards right now.
So initially, he was unsuccessful in getting a hold of him. So he called Mark Marrow at the Shady Lawn truck stop that was right across the street and asked him to go across to his house and get Pete for him. So Pete then came to Hippie's house and helped Pat dismember the body in the bathtub. You're making that face because of the smell? Yeah.
In the bath. Everything happens in the bathroom.
I know.
The worst shit in the bathroom.
And now that we've talked about how people say it smells worse, I just can't get it out of my head. Yeah. I'm just imagining the smell of this. So they dismembered the body and they cleaned the house to get rid of any evidence that a crime had occurred there. They then poured Drano down the drain just in case there was any remaining traces of hair or fibers or blood or anything. Then they transported the body to their parents' home in West Point, Tennessee, where they burned the body about 5 feet from the back door, like right there on the property. I just feel like, wouldn't you go somewhere kind of distant?
Yeah.
I don't like putting myself in this place where I'm just like, oh, what would I do if I were a criminal? But really, that's just stupid.
5 feet away from where someone can... They're just careless.
Oh, yeah.
Why would you call Mark Maron and tell him to go get your big brother? Don't get it.
Yeah, they just feel invincible. They feel like they could do anything. It doesn't matter if the body's 5 feet from my door, you know?
No one's going to know.
That's crazy. So a couple days later, Pete was at the farmhouse getting high and drinking with his friend Rodney when Denise showed up. They asked her to stay, and she obliged because she was still pretty scared of them. The three of them hung out on the porch, drinking, getting high, and Denise pointed out that there was blood on Pete's car.
Don't say anything.
I know.
Why would you even?
Just leave. Just silently moonwalk into a fog, you know?
You guys eat peanut butter jelly sandwiches, or?
I'd really like to make you a sandwich right now. Did you hear a car starting? I think Denise left. Yeah, I mean, really, it's just get out of there as soon as you can. That's just crazy. So Pete didn't deny anything when she pointed out the blood. Instead, he said that the blood was from Hippie. He was very, clear about it from the jump. And he pointed to a spot right by the door in the yard where they had burned the body. And Denise recalls seeing that there was a lump on the ground that was still smoking about a day and a half after the murder occurred. And Denise recalled that it took the twins 2 days to thoroughly get rid of Gwen's body when they burned it. So she believed him. I mean, she knew what they were capable of. He told Denise that to burn Hippie's body, they had to get the temperature really hot, and that they had even gotten supplies from work at the rubber company and put rubber in the fire to make it burn hotter.
Hey, could you speak into this microphone? I mean, this... Right? Just talk right. Can you just tell me what you just said one more time?
I'm really hard of hearing.
Yeah. I
developed it over last night.
Snitch, 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 just snitch.
Exactly.
All you gotta do is snitch.
All you have to do is say something. I know. I feel like people don't know about witness protection. I think that's so weird.
Well, because witness protection is bullshit. But even then...
But still, I don't know. There's something I don't know.
I just get a gun? I don't know. And then protect myself? And fucking A, dude.
Yeah, I can't believe she hadn't gone to the cops. I mean, she's in danger no matter what. That's the thing that's really striking, is it's not like, oh, if I tell, I'll be in danger. No, you're in danger now.
Yeah.
So why not say something?
If she comes back for that next check, I'm off Team Denise. I'm fucking done.
I want to be on Team Denise, but it's hard.
I'll just get a part-time job. How about that?
I'll just secretly be on Team Denise, but not wear an outfit or a cheerleading thing. No,
no, absolutely not. Team, get a fucking job and fuck those checks.
Oh God.
Team, change of address. That's what team we're on.
Yeah, I'm with that. I'm definitely with that.
Team pepper spray. Team bear mace.
So much Team bear mace. Team taser for life. So she, of course, did not doubt the story for a second. She knew it was true. It's not like she was horrified and just oh, I can't believe it. No, she knew what had happened. And she knew that she was in danger because she knew the secret now. And this was one more thing that kind of put her in life in jeopardy. So the twins said that Hippie got what was coming for him. He noticed the horrified look on her face and decided to pay her for her silence. So he handed Denise some money and said that she was, quote, entitled to 1/3 of the burial expense, meaning that any money found on the person at the time would be split. So he handed her money, and Denise noticed that one of the bills that he handed her had blood on it. They then asked Denise to call the rubber company that they worked at and pretend to be Hippie's wife, Joyce. They told her that she had to say that he was sick and that he couldn't make it to work. And Denise did as she was told because she was afraid of what would happen if she didn't, you know? I wouldn't be able to stand up in that moment either, you know?
No, I definitely wouldn't. But the minute I left that fucking farm.
Oh, of course. I'd be calling back and be like, call the cops now.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So on Wednesday, Pete went back to the Gaines house and decided to get rid of any trace evidence that they had been in the house. Pat went to work that night and Pete drove to Hippie's house, and Pete put a lit candle on the bed that was in the front bedroom. He put kind of sheets wrapped around the base of the candle so it stood up straight, but then as it burned down, then the sheets would catch fire. So he had time to kind of get like 5-10 minutes away before the fire started, and he would be somewhere else and be able to have an alibi. So after the fire was put out, the police started a missing persons investigation to locate Hippie. To ensure Denise's silence, the twins told Denise that if she told, they would blame everything on her. They told her that they would say she was an accomplice, that she had been part of it, and they threatened her that if that happened, she would also go to jail and she wouldn't see her kids anymore.
Not if she snitches and gets a really good deal.
You just got to be first. Like everybody, just know you have to be first.
Yeah, exactly. Just be the first one to break and give your list of demands and don't talk until those demands are met. Boom.
So Pat was brought in for questioning since he was the last person to be seen with Hippie. But Pat said he had been drinking with him together after work on October 17th, and that was the last time that he had seen him. And that they both got drunk, but he took Hippie home, and that was it. Pat also said that he stopped by the corner canteen before going home, and that people would have seen him there. He also told detectives that he went looking for Hippie on October 22nd, and that was the day of the fire, and he couldn't find him. I don't know how all of that checked out, and nobody dug into it, but the case basically went cold. For the next 3 years, police had no leads and couldn't find any physical evidence, and nobody else came forward saying that they knew anything about what happened that night.
Especially, like, you asked, like, 4 people at the bar, and they're like, oh, yeah, Pete was talking about beating up Hippie all last week.
Right.
If Hippie's missing, you should ask Pete.
I don't understand how nobody traced that back to him. It doesn't make sense. So, of course, 3 years passed, and in 1990, Denise's guilt finally caught up with her.
Oh, hooray for guilt. Thank goodness.
Yeah, so she went to the police. And she asked for immunity for her part in the destruction of evidence in exchange for her testimony.
Good job.
Go, Denise.
Yeah.
Slow clap
finally.
for Denise. So she told detectives about what she had seen the twins do to Gwen and what they told her had happened to Hippie. Denise then led the detectives to the farmhouse where the brothers used to live at the time of the murders. And the crime scene unit sprayed luminol. Even though the crime scene had been cleaned, luminol will find traces of blood even if you try to clean it. Mm-hmm. So they said that they sprayed the luminol, and the witnesses at the time said the room lit up like the night sky.
Gross.
Yeah. The twins were indicted in 1990 for Gwen's murder, and they went to trial in 1991. They were convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 27 years. The conviction, of course, was based on Denise's testimony and the presence of a diaper pin at the murder scene, because Gwen's family knew that she always kept this diaper pin on her tennis shoe as this kind of symbol or reminder of her son.
Aww.
Yeah. So that was actually present, and they found it. And that was one of the things that survived the whole fire and getting rid of evidence.
27 years isn't long enough.
No, not at all. But the absence of a body, because there were no remains that they found, led to them getting the lesser charge of second-degree murder rather than first-degree murder. So the judge, Jim Hamilton, said that the diaper pin was one of the most chilling pieces of evidence he had ever seen presented in court. During sentencing, the judge said that in his 25-year career on the bench, he had never seen a murder as brutal and merciless as this case. I find it just an odd little tidbit that the house that Gwen Duggar was murdered in was moved from the site and renovated as a showcase home.
To showcase.
I have no fucking clue, because by all accounts, it seems like it was an old, dilapidated farmhouse, but for some reason, it was used to showcase.
It's probably one of those vintage hipster houses or something. Just like, this is from the 20s.
They just took it apart and then made it into a tiny house?
Yes.
But I read that and I was like, that just seems weird. Something's off about that.
Yeah.
I imagine show houses as like Arrested Development when they're just living. That's what I imagine it as. So I'm like, this does not seem like a showcase house at all.
Like they're like bringing people in. And if you spray luminol everywhere.
Check out this night sky.
It turns into the coolest rave house you've ever seen. The duality.
Oh, God. So after the conviction for Gwen's murder, the twins went on trial for the murder of Ronnie Hippie Gaines. Pat would later be convicted of first-degree murder, and Pete was convicted for helping dispose of the body, the dismemberment, and, of course, the arson. To go on another tangent, Pete was also suspected of the murder of his girlfriend, Terry Lynn Clark.
He did it.
Which took place like right after Hippie's murder.
Ah.
So there's kind of varying sources, but I just think it's worth bringing up, of course, because this is possibly another victim. It seems that these sources give conflicting info. Some say he was sentenced to 15 years for the murder, and others say that his girlfriend Terry actually died of an overdose. And one of the weird things was that after Hippie's murder, detectives showed up to the Bondurant home to ask Pete to verify Pat's alibi. And the detectives had an appointment with him. They show up, and when they get there, they find Terry Lynn Clark dead in Pete's bed.
Oh, no.
Yes. It was clear that she had died of drugs. Basically, it wasn't an act of violence. However, it was suspected that Pete had been behind it, that maybe he had given her the fatal dosage, or just kept pumping her full of drugs the way he did with Gwen, something like that, you know? It just seems like nobody really has verified either one of those stories. However, I'm inclined to believe that he wasn't convicted of the murder. So since he was sentenced to 25 years, adding another 15 wouldn't make him eligible for parole until much later.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do know is that Pete was eligible for parole like in the 2010s.
Okay.
So I think that he wasn't convicted of that. I think that the sources that cite that may be wrong. Just mathematically, it doesn't really work. But it's kind of crazy that another girl died, you know? I'm inclined to believe that he also had something to do with it. Whether he was convicted or not, you know, he was definitely involved in the decline of this young woman, you know, pumping everybody full of drugs. So initially he was denied parole, and he would, you know, plead with the parole board that he was a changed man. He was no longer the same person, all that kind of bullshit, which I hate hearing because it's like, you're not a different person.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. People change. People can grow. Like, I want to believe the best, but you're also a fucking murderer and you've done it more than once.
Yeah.
This is a pattern. It's not like an accident where you pulled a gun in self-defense. It was not a fucking stand your ground shit. On December 26, 2016, Pete Bondurant was released from prison.
What is with this fucking... I don't like the cops in this case. I don't like the whole fucking system because people are stupid.
I'm sorry. I know.
You should be.
It's bad. Yeah,
What?
he was... Yeah.
They let him out?
They let him out.
Where do we find him? I'm going to offer him some coke.
I know.
And then stab him with my words.
My detective work ended there because I don't want to go to jail myself. So yeah, he's out of prison. You know, I found a quote that said, he served every bit of time we could make him serve. He is not on any kind of parole or release. He is not supervised.
What?
Yes.
Why would they make that
He served his 25 years. He's out.
Oh, damn.
And Pat his release date is in 2070.
70?
So, yeah, 2070. It's a while away. We've got a little bit of time.
A little bit, yeah.
To premeditate.
Wait, why does he have a longer 2070 versus 17, you mean?
No, 2070, because he was convicted of Hippie's murder.
Oh, and the other. Okay,
yes.
okay. Pete was only the one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, they both had the sentence of 25 for Denise,
And
or
then
for Gwen.
Gwen. Okay. Well, okay. Stupid. They should have just joined wrestling. It was like at the peak right then. They could have been the fucking wrestling twins.
They could have been backyard wrestlers.
Doing drugs and getting all the poon and stuff, or whatever wrestlers do. I don't know.
They would have so many awesome matching outfits.
Like, what?
Glitter overalls.
Yeah.
Bedazzled flannels. Lots of Prince and Prince.
Prince and Prince.
I'm the Prince of Prince.
That was crazy. I want to murder both those guys.
I know.
And
There's something
Denise.
about them that seems very horror movie-ish.
Yeah.
I just imagine some guy coming at me with an axe wearing overalls. That's just this big old dude.
Yeah. I could just imagine a dude trying to give me too many drugs. Oh, wait, that's happened way too many times. And
That's
praying
just
that I
life.
fall asleep. Yeah.
That's just Wednesday.
Seriously, though. Oh, man.
Yeah, I
Good
really hate the Bondurant twins.
Bondurant. I don't like them.
Yeah, it's just creepy, and it's
Ew.
just so. I just feel so bad that Denise felt so trapped and couldn't come forward and was so terrified. But then it's just so hard to know that somebody else knew what happened, and there's families that are missing their loved ones and just praying that they come home. And there's a child without its parent, and there's a woman that knows and doesn't come forward.
How do you keep that secret? I can't keep any fucking secrets like that. Like,
yeah.
Oh man.
I know.
How do you hold that down? I have to tell one person. One person. It's usually you.
Just I know, right?
Because I know you're not gonna tell anyone, but gotta tell one person. And
I know.
Jesus.
Yeah, I would fall apart. I
Yeah.
mean, it would just like crumble me from the inside. I couldn't live with that.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know. And you have a kid, and knowing she has a kid,
That's
like
the thing.
ma to ma. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd picture that child just growing up without her. You know? Yeah, that story is not very hopeful.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Thankful that Denise finally came through. You know,
Finally. Yeah, I am grateful that eventually she came around. And of course, because there was no leads, had she not said anything, it would still be unsolved.
Yeah.
So I am grateful that even though it took longer than anybody would like, of course, I'm grateful she came forward. You know,
Yeah.
I can't imagine being that family member, that child that just grew up never knowing what happened. You know?
Agreed.
So that's the plus side, I guess.
That was good.
Silver lining.
Thanks for the positivity.
So that's the story of the Bondurant twins.
Yeah, that was good.
So next week, that's the end of tea. We're moving on to you.
To me. It's going to be like a 17-part series. It's a whole nother podcast.
Also, we're approaching the end of the alphabet. So anybody that has suggestions for subjects, I mean,
awesome.
We're really open to it on any of the letters, but especially the end of the alphabet where it gets pretty fucked up.
It does.
There's just not many options. So
no,
help
X,
a bitch out.
X.
Yeah, what?
Xylophone.
That's it. Only one
Xenophobe.
option.
Xenophobe murders. That would be good.
Yeah. So if anybody has any suggestions, let us know. I've actually looked. I really have. Yeah.
That's a murdery place in the middle of nowhere.
I know, and I can't find anything. So if anybody has any information on Zizek's murders.
Thanks to Mindhunter, I know that California has more like murders and stuff than, unless that was just a random fact, but they were like, you know, the terrain. And I was like, that makes sense. We have canyons, we have mountains, we have deserts, we have the best places, beaches, we have rivers, we have lakes. We have the best places to hide bodies.
Oh, yeah.
Trash
Mindhunters.
cans, yeah.
It's science.
Exactly. Thanks, Mindhunter.
I went to the University of Mindhunters.
Come to California to kill. California.
So I think that's going to be it for this week.
Yeah, that was fun.
Cool. So it's too late for timestamps, but some of the other stuff that you can find in the show notes are links to our Threadless if you want merch. So that's murderdictionary.threadless.com. And if you want to join Patreon and get bonus episodes and some stickers and some condoms and all sorts of cool shit, then we have our Patreon at, I think it's patreon.com/murderdictionary. And all the links for that will be in the show notes, along with our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And let's see, we have to thank our new Patreon support. There's always a Leah. There's
Mean Green Giant #2. There's like a Robert.
There is.
Is there a Robert? No, there's not. I just made
there
that.
is.
No way.
You did it.
Yes. Leah, Robert, Mean Green Giant,
Faith, and Courtney. So thank you, you guys, for your support on Patreon. Leah, Faith, Mead, Courtney, and Robert.
Thanks, guys.
So let's see. I think that's pretty much it. We have links to resources for domestic violence, CPH.
CPH? California? Oh, wait, that's CHP. What the fuck is CPH?
Letters are hard.
The ABC, links to the ABC and 123s.
There's also anti-bullying, some mental health stuff. So I think that's the last thing that you'll find in our show notes. And that's it. We're moving on to you next week.
Sweet.
So we'll see you in letter U.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get close and true crime and chill.
True crime and chill.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Finding the right pros for home projects can be tough and spark a lot of questions like, how do I find a pro who can help? Will they do a good job? Will I get a fair price? That's where HomeAdvisor can help. From leaky faucets to major remodels, HomeAdvisor connects you to the right pro for the job in seconds and even helps you get a fair price. Read reviews, check project cost guides, and book appointments. Go to HomeAdvisor.com or download the free HomeAdvisor app to start your next project.
And now, a thought from Geico Motorcycle.
It took 15 minutes to take a spirit animal quiz online.
Please be the cheetah. Please be the cheetah.
And learn your animal isn't the cheetah, but the far less appealing blobfish.
Oh, come on.
To add insult to injury, you could have used those 15 blobfish minutes to switch your motorcycle insurance to Geico.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance.